So I got a request to look at Whitman-Hanson School District in Massachusetts. I feel like this district kind of got hit with the ugly stick. So okay, the pandemic happens and that's just bad for everyone. But then they have a ransomware attack, and the ransomware attack, disables their entire sort of financial, fiscal papers systems. They couldn't complete audits. They had problems with payroll. Teachers apparently were even having problems with their 403Bs and Medicare stuff. Okay, so that's bad enough. But they needed a new middle school amidst all of this. Now, when you need a new middle school in the United States of America, you have to sell a bond. And selling a bond means selling yourself as an investment commodity on Wall Street so that wealthy bondholders will be convinced to park their money in your school district and lend you the monies, and you'll pay them back with interest. Again, the reason that they want to do this is because there's actually a federal tax exemption on the interest payments that millionaires and billionaires will make when they invest in the school bonds. That's how we do public school infrastructure in this country. So they'd had this ransomware attack. They had all these problems with all of their fiscal paperwork. That meant they couldn't do audits. And when you can't do audits, you can't upload audits as disclosure statements as the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, and the Municipal Securities Review Board requires. The reason they require this is because when all of the investors want to invest in your school bond and lend your school district money because they're interested in making money back with tax-free interest payments, they want to know this is a good investment. And the way they know that there's a good investment, it's a safe investment, is when the paperwork is uploaded and you can check the teeth on the school district. Make sure it's not risky, make sure there's no junk involved in this investment. Literally, some school districts in this country are considered junk investments because they're risky bonds, mostly because their property values aren't super high, or there's been deindustrialization, so they're not seen as good investments. Which parenthetically, this is why school buildings are junk in this country, because the way we finance them considers them junk investments. Anyway, in Whitman-Hanson, they wanted to sell a bond to build their new middle school, but they couldn't upload the audits, and so no investors came to the table to buy the bond, which meant they had to go into a bunch of short-term debt, with anticipation notes. And so what they had to do is they had to sell a bond anticipation note, which is a kind of bond instrument that's a short-term thing where you get short-term credit to be able to cover your expenses right now in anticipation of a longer-term loan, the bond. So they had to do $8 million of the bond anticipation note, in anticipation of the $30 million bond that was having trouble getting sold because of all the stuff with the paperwork. And so they're dealing with all this. Actually, the total bond is $130 million, not just 30. Now, the federal government, as we know, is chipping in some money in some helpful ways at this point throughout the pandemic, so they're getting some federal revenues. But those bottom out in 2025. And then the thing that I see over and over again across the country happened. The business managers, the CFO type figure, the person who's at the head of the books, who's running the numbers, there was intense turnover in the 5-year period that this school district was having problems. New business manager in 2020, new business manager in 23, new business manager in 25, and then that person quits. And then come 2025, the school board gets this announcement that they're in a $1.4 million shortfall, that the revenues aren't meeting expenditures, and now suddenly they're thinking about closing schools, and they're dealing with a crisis, and they have to hire outside people to figure out what went wrong with the books. Again, ugly stick.